Hey, Rabbi, we back. And in the famous words of Sai Baba, let's dance. Y'all get on the TV, man. Raw Hayes.
And the ancestors are looking out for us. God Hayes is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under it. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown lesson. Peace.
Young
Be unto you.
TV.
Hit that like.
Hey, Rabbi, y'all, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We back with Chief Pontiac, right? Where it all started, right? Where it all began. And now, hey, I got a couple questions for you.
Hold on, before we get started, we got to tell the people something.
Go ahead.
Okay, so me and the young elder can't be ourselves because of the algorithms.
Yeah.
And so we got to be more scholastic and more what they call politically correct. I don't believe in being politically correct, but it's certain stuff that they giving us a hard time if we say so. We're going to try our best. I don't know how good I'm going to be, Elder. I'm going to do the best I can, man, but I might slip up here and there, you know. So, but we got to be more scholarly in the delivery of what we're talking about today. So it might not be as galvanizing as it would be with the seasoning of the special words that we like to use.
Yeah.
So we had to get that disclaimer out the way.
Yeah. All right. So, Rod, now this is an interesting thing. So I've been spending Dr. Malachi Z. York is still in jail, and we waiting on Larry to get released. And so I've been working on some on his case. And so I'm gonna drop it on his birthday on Thursday. And man, it's interesting. AI is interesting. So I went to the newwapianfact.com. If you wanted to find out about Dr. Malachi Z. York case, you can go to newwapianfact.com. They did something to the free Dr. Malachi Z. York.com website, but what I'm trying to say, I copied the whole newwapianfact.com, the whole website, and then I gave it to AI, and I said, tell me how to get Malachi out of jail, right? And the AI gave 3 scenarios that I'm gonna be dropping. It's more pieces to the tape, but this is the main part about the tape. And AI, it gave 3 options, but the main option that it focused on was Judge Ashley A. Royals. All the stuff. It said that Judge Ashley A. Royals, he sealed the files. He closed the court. He did a court date on a federal holiday when everybody was off. All the county clerks, everybody off on federal holidays. Why would you hold a court case when everybody off? How's that happen? You know I'm saying? So it's like, but AI dropping everything on how Judge Ashley A. Royals broke the Brandy violation, First Amendment, Doc's First Amendment right, Fourth Amendment right, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, all the way up. Right? They broke all of his rights. Right? And then the other angle, the main angle was that Judge Ashley A. Royals, and it gave me different ways to come at him. And then the next way that it said was Doc's sovereignty. And that's what my question for you is. The sovereignty, it said that Malachi's sovereignty, being that he a chief of the Yamasee Native American Indians. They said that was like their number one. That was a number one ping that AI pinged out of getting Doc out. So now, how did this play out, being that Doc is a certified chief on the land, even with, we don't know they don't honor treaties of paperwork, they got the legacies of it. But how does the sovereignty play out with their court systems? It just based on what they say, or is it, do they got to, they don't got it, they ain't honor it anyway, but how does that work with the sovereignty and the difference with the court systems and being put into jail?
Okay, first you got to realize that he's in there on a RICO charge. All them years is based on a RICO charge. We got it all confused because of the propaganda smear campaign, but he's in there on a RICO charge right now. Whenever they charge somebody with RICO, like R. Kelly's in there on a RICO charge, right? They told us he was going to trial for what? Human trafficking, right?
Yeah.
But he went to trial on a RICO charge. Right now, we watching Puffy. They telling us that Puffy is on trial for sex trafficking, right? And they're using all these other things, but he's actually in there under the allegations with a RICO charge. Spanish RICO mean rich, right? And we know that R. Kelly is an idiot savant.
Right.
He can't distinguish groups of people, so he was supposed to have been protected, right? Because he's a musical genius.
That's right.
But he's a social idiot.
Go ahead.
Right. He has the intelligence socially of a second grader and the educational capabilities to match.
Wow.
This is all public record. This is not nothing I'm making up.
Yeah, I heard all this. He used to be in the subway. That's how he got playing the piano.
Right.
He was home.
He borderline retarded, basically.
Damn.
And you charging the retarded dude with sex trafficking, and when you read and listen to the testimonies in this case, he was always at the studio when somebody brought a girl to him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They try to make him out to be a predator. I don't know whether he is or not. I ain't never met R. Kelly a day in my life. I'm just following what the actual situation is versus the alleged situation. Right. They use the sex cases in order to villainize them so bad, because don't nobody want to be associated with molesters and rapers.
That's right.
You can't even go to prison associated with molesters and rapers and expect to not be harassed.
That's right.
Right. So where is you gonna go? So that's the first thing we got to understand, how the propaganda machine works.
That's right.
The allegation of rape is always used because the evidence is not the rape itself, but the allegation.
Dang.
You got to remember that the key evidence in any rape case is not the rape. It's not the DNA. It ain't nothing but the allegation. Right? Now, the RICO cases always brought out when they trying to get at somebody's wealth.
That's right.
Now, remember, the Teflon Don himself, John Gotti, beat everything until he ran into RICO. Remember that. The Teflon Don, John Gotti, beat everything until he ran into RICO. RICO is a government subversive activity. The government is using it to stifle men from becoming powerful amongst their community. In other words, take out the chiefs. Right? Now, the RICO charge was specifically developed to bring down the heads of corporations and organizations. It's in the history of the document. That means that there got to be something in that RICO case where they can sustain. Once you get a RICO conviction, it's almost impossible to get out on appeal. It's next to impossible because soon as the other judge see that it's a RICO charge, they know that you are a prominent member of the community. Whether you Trump at Trump Plaza or whether you Gotti in the underbellies of the 5 boroughs, it don't matter. If you are influenced, you are subject to RICO if the government want to get rid of you. Now, we know it to be designed to get rid of heads of organizations, right? But the most powerful organization that could ever manifest on the land is an organic tribe.
Go ahead.
We already know that they got a war declared against us from counterintelligence programs, how they infiltrated, how they hit the Panthers. And we already know they have a war program because the cocaine came in under Rex 84. Or it wouldn't have came up in the Iran-Contra scandal and we still wouldn't know about it. We would still be called it the Lord Alfred plan or the King Alfred plan. But to find out that it was actually readiness exercise, 1984, right, ties us back into the COINTELPRO under a different name, right? Because the description is different, but the purpose is the same, right? So when you are sovereign and they want to wage war against you, but they don't want your tribe to get involved, right? That's when they put your name on what's called the war rant. We say warrant, but it's the continuation of the original declaration of war waged with the arrival of Columbus in 1492. Right? This is why we mentioned jurisdictional supremacy, and we did that episode on understanding jurisdiction. We got territorial rights, and territorial rights is currently being enforced. It's just not instant. It's just not instant. The Air Force and the Navy, that's our admiralty jurisdiction, right? We supposed to be governing with the great law is supposed to govern land, air, and water, right? The land, which is the law of the land, which is the sacred great law. And the first principle of that law is love, which comes from the teachings of the mother. So it takes us back to the matriarchy, right? So under the law of the land, military enforcement domestically is done under National Guard control. You got Joint Chiefs of Staff. They got all of the branches of military, right? And when you do a domestic, right, a domestic action from the military of the United States, like toppling domestic enemies, because they oath of office to protect the Constitution says to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? Once the domestic war was declared in 1933, they activated the National Guard, but the National Guard did it strategically by allowing FBI to keep records and CIA to keep records and then come in at this time and then take over. Because they discovered the discovery of the fraud cancels the contract. Once they realized that they was using the fraudulent corporate jurisdiction, now they wait on a competent heir. When I say heir, I don't mean AIR, I mean HEIR, as inheritable rights. right? So now you have the corporate entity called the United States, and then you have the We the People entity that they changed the name of on documents from the Confederation of Tribes to the Constitution of the United States. And to defend that document, also have to defend anything that is grandfathered in. Anything, any law that has not been overturned, right, can be used under the grandfather clause, even from a pre-existing system. This is why we had to go back to the oral tradition, because before they said put it in writing, we said, come tell me about it.
Right.
You see the difference? Come tell me about it. I need to understand what you're looking at, and then I can look at it from my angle and see if I see it the same. Come sit down, talk to me for a minute. We forget that the tribes invented American Sign Language. Sign language was not specifically created for deaf people. It just was a valuable benefit they inherited. The sign language was created, the American Sign Language that all of the deaf people use was created by the tribes because we didn't all speak the same language.
Makes sense.
So we had to teach the sign language. The sign language that gave birth to the American Sign Language also gave birth to Morse code because that's a different tribal system. The Morse code was from knocking on trees at far distances with hollow instruments, right? Or sometimes you use instruments that sound like animals screeching, but the chiefs know that that animal don't belong on this part of the land. That means that tribe from that part of the land is sending me a message, right? Or else I wouldn't hear that particular animal. I wouldn't hear a owl that's native to New York screeching in Arizona. Right. But if I hear that tribe in distress call from New York, it's going to sound like to me, there's the owl that's native to New York screeching in Arizona.
Right. Go ahead.
Right. So all of those things that struck terror in the enemies was actually communication methods. Right. So our sovereignty is tied into our ability to reestablish our jurisdictional supremacy over the corporate jurisdiction and to restore the matriarchy is the only way to restore tribal rights across the land. Because it's the oldest contract of the earth is the matriarchal contract, which designated earth as the feminine gender planet. That's how it's determined. Right. At onset of creation, it's the first contract. The patriarchs did everything to attack the matriarchy and tear it down, but one thing they never did. They never overturned the matriarchal rights of inheritance to be caretakers of the earth because their jurisdiction is automatically subverted by the prime creator who assigned the matriarch's jurisdiction over earth. You can go against God, but you can't directly go against God. You got to go against God in a roundabout way. Because when you directly affront to God and say, we overturning your rules, and God react. So in the process, they don't honor no laws on their books when it comes to them because it has nothing to do with them. All of the laws on the books across the land is only on the books to control the tribes from the land. We didn't have prisons before they came because we didn't need them.
Right.
We didn't have police before they came because we didn't need them.
Right.
We had the greatest problem resolution skills of any people on the planet because we didn't even have dungeons over here.
Wasn't no crime.
But no crime.
No, I looked it up, Raw, and they said the way the tribes did it, they had like a rehabilitation program. It was sort of like that, but it wasn't no prison. It was like where he sat down with the medicine man and he talked to had talked with like the clan mother, and they did like a psychology type thing on him to assess where he was at. and then they sent him on a mission or whatever they was do to get to as far as his like his rehabilitation or something. It was never no crime like that until 1715. That's what I was going. Let's make it to my next question. Now the Moors, from what I found out, the Moors get the bright idea in 1715 to bring white convicts over here and start setting up the penal colonies. Could you go in on the penal colonies set up by the Moors all over? And could you go in what you got on the penal colonies?
Remember when I told y'all that they brought Huns, Vedics, right, and Mongolians that they had captured as prisoners of war and put them as they call them pauper villages in Europe. These villages was populated with POWs. They wasn't allowed to leave because if they got caught leaving, they get murdered. So they were setting up homesteads in these villages. These the villages we see the tax collector going to in Robin Hood, right? And so when they brought them over here, they didn't first bring pale faces first. First, they brought those people. That was around the 1619 incursion. The Moors brought their slaves with them when they came. They wasn't called Moors yet, by the way. In the 1500s, they wasn't called Moors yet, right? It hadn't caught on as a global description for brown-skinned, woolly-haired people. Its root word is Mauri, M-A-U-R-I, which is French, right? The French descriptive term Mauri means like brown cinnamon complexion, right?
Dog skin.
So the term hadn't taken hold like it is now. The usage of the word Moor in colonial period America was very small, if it was even used over here. It began to be used in the 1600s, in the 1700s, but it really took hold after 1776. 1776 with the American Revolution is when the word had its boom period, because now the George Washington challenge is at play. And this is why it became prominent to classify the two different groups that's trying to educate themselves above the condition. Enlil children and Tahuti children. This is the land of Tahuti. The land of Enlil is not on earth because he don't belong here. That's why he had to promise his children a piece of land when he created them, right? Because they all come from him, but they don't got no homeland. But everybody that's native to the planet got a homeland that they belong to, like the old Mississippian tribes all belong over here, right? We know that the Sudanese people, the Hadendawa, the Dinka, we know they belong in the Sudanese region. We know that the Zulu and a couple of other of the tribes, them short Bantu tribes, Twa, belong in South Africa because they've been there the whole time since the mining period of Manadapa.
Yeah, the Sands man too.
Everybody is native except one group of people. And these is the people that's running around trying to convince us that they got a promised land for them, but he got them traveling all over the world looking for it. That doesn't make sense. You mean the prime creator, the God of all gods, the inventor of creation, don't know where his people belong?
Right.
Right. Why do you have to fight a war to inherit what your God said he was going to give you unless he was a God of war?
Right.
In that case, he ain't the creator. He's a warlord. And if he a warlord, he came to the right places because the Lord of War going to be over here when he run into him. Right. So the puzzle unravels when we start seeing how we all fit in under the terms, the references, the identification of people. Anybody tell you God picked somebody as a superior group of people is your sworn blood enemy. He just don't even know what he's telling you. God is no respecter of person. Not the real God, not the real creator don't care what you look like. The real creator only care what frequency you vibrate on. He don't care what you look like, where you come from. He don't care if you half dog, half monkey. If you vibrate on the frequency, if you don't believe me, you can ask the Hanuman. Right? Because the monkey god said that he would raise all of you up to be Hanuman, like himself. What was the problem with Hanuman? None of the gods could control Hanuman. They always kissing his behind, but none of the gods could control Hanuman. Think about that for a minute. They was always coming to him to solve the unsolvable problem, but they would always talk about him bad like he was a useless deity. And this is how you get the clone army of the Planet of the Apes through the contagious Sacco Mao monkey man being seduced by the wise serpent Tupac Amaru. Let the snake rise up. Let the cobra dance. Monkey see snake. Monkey know where snake at, even when monkey don't watch snake. If they tell you somebody dead, you got to see the body. Because if you don't see the body, they on some BS. And half the time when you see the body, you only looking at a wooden replica of somebody that they told you died. That's why all of the corpses feel like concrete. When you touch them, it feel like they made out of wood, because they made out of wood.
And this the next. Go ahead. I thought you were finished.
People are paying attention, but they're not paying attention. But the monkey mind is waking up now, because once you see the wise one rise up, the Sacco Mao, the monkey mind, even if he don't agree, can't take his mind off of it. Even when he doing something else, the Sacco Mao will always take you back, the monkey mind, to where the wisdom is, and that's why our ancestors called wisdom the serpent and the dragon. So that your Sacco Mao, your monkey mind, can follow the wisdom path through wherever it go, as long as you know how to do some monkey knocking. Gorilla knocking, monkey flipping. Right? So it's about the strength of the grip, holding on to your post. You can't be the master with the master grip if you ain't got that gorilla grip. Right? As soon as we realize that the gorilla grip comes from training, we exercise the faculty. Only by searching for wisdom will you find the serpent in his hole.
Hey, Rod, I got another question for you, Rod, because AI brought out some interesting things in that tape that I put out just a minute ago before we went live. It said that the 5 indigenous tribes were forced to sign treaties with the Moors, and they had to, and in this treaty, they had to drop all their culture and take on Moors culture. So I wanted to that bring in the L's and Bay, because these same people will go, they trace their bloodline back to the Ottoman Empire. And Doc make mention of this. It's all coming to me in the Let's Set the Record Straight book. So when these 5 indigenous tribes had to sign deals with the European Moors, and they had to drop all their traditions, and they was forced to take on their religion, pretty much their whole culture, change their whole culture to Moors culture. What's significant about this?
They didn't change. They changed it to Ottoman culture, not Moorish culture.
Yeah, well, okay.
You got to remember, conquistadors in Spain was the Moors. Huguenots in France was the Moors. And the only reason why the Turks or the Ottomans are Turks, they got caught into the war because they got conquered by the Byzantine kings in the Moorish Turkish Empire. Was the Moors that conquered Turkey. And when you growing up in elementary school, when we were, they always made mention of the change of Istanbul, that was Ottoman rule, Turk rule, to Constantinople after Constantine, which was Roman rule, which was Moorish rule. Because
And
they was the
Romans,
Tuscans.
Ottoman Empire, all them the same people. They all the same
Well,
guys. If you check
at
them out,
different times, right? But you got to know when they come in, so you'll know what they doing. Now, remember, in the George Washington Challenge, the goal was to spin us around and confuse us about what part of the earth we came from, what part of the ocean.
that's right.
Are we from Europe, the Iberian Peninsula, or are we from Turtle Island? That was the challenge. We remember when we come out of the slumber from the blood magic.
Right.
Right. So if that was the goal, they had to give us a culture that wasn't ours.
Yeah.
Right. This is why they got a lot of the Mongolians is over here practicing Mongolian rites under the pretense of being Native American.
Right.
Right. And we know the difference in the Mongolian rites because they still practice them in Mongolia.
Right. Dragon
Right.
worship.
But they don't practice the rights of the old Mississippians because they don't know how to put the message on the drum.
That's right. Damn. So
Right. They don't know how to weave it in on the Delta Blue. Right. The Delta Blue is a frequency. It's a harmonic frequency of the throat chakra. Right. In order for people to be able to know who they are, we could tell our people by the sound of their voice. And what it tell you, my people will know me by what? By the sound of my voice. It ain't that our voice is so powerful.
Right.
It's just that through years, we always sound the same in every lifetime. So when they hear us speak lifetimes later, you know what I'm saying? They begin to gravitate toward that voice. And they can tell if you've been corrupted by modern times because your voice will crack. But you won't hear it. They will. Right? They'll tell you, I love to listen to that preacher speak, but it's somebody ain't right. That imam out cold, but somebody ain't right. Right? That brother know he can hold us down in this political storm, but something ain't right about him. I don't know what it is, but that ain't who he's supposed to be. He's out of character. He's not himself.
Right.
He's been ego seduced. He's been seduced by the ego. Unless he got seduced by an eagle. See, They play the word game. They call it semantics, word games. Right? But if you bring up etymology, those who practice semantics will get mad at you.
Go ahead.
All right. So we have to know how to recognize us when we come. And all of this stuff comes in on the frequency of the music and the dance. So our culture is going to outshine any culture on the land.
That's right.
And then we'll be able to trace us back home. Not off of no book. Only off reading the culture. But before you can learn to read the culture, some of us got to learn to read the book. We got to know the story they told, so when we reverse engineer the culture, we can see where the lies at, and then we can point them out. Man, this is what we've been doing.
Yeah.
You know, so in the George Washington Challenge, the goal was to give us the Ottoman influence. This is where you get your terms Bays, Days, and L's and Ali's from. Even though Ali is Arabic and L is Paleo Hebrew, L is still tied back into the Turkish Empire through linguistics. Right. So the Turks speak a different form of Arabic, which takes them back to the languages that they learned from the ones who migrated through and became the Byzantine kings, to show you the influence in the travel of the culture of the Moors. Right? We can follow the culture development of people across the Sahara Desert. And we can see that around 711, the exile taking place. And then we'll see a circling of those people on the Iberian Peninsula in groups. Then around the time of the 1300s, war break out and called the Great Inquisition, that they make it a parody in this movie. The movie is called History of the World with Mel Brooks, right? And in there, they're giving you a parody of the Inquisition. Well, you got to remember, this was all over Europe because half of the European countries weren't established until this time frame. They was regions, major regions, like you didn't have Russia yet. Russia was the Khazarian region that covered into what today is Ukraine. All of those other regions were merged together to form Russia, right? The Soviet Union. But before Russia, it was called Prussia. The Prussian Empire is what was ruled by czars. You got to realize that czar is a European title of nobility, right? So they don't want us to use titles of nobility, but we identify our nobles by naming them certain names. That's why, you know, everybody named Sonny Boy, Sonny, Son, right? All those names is another way of saying chief in different languages from the different peoples. So we all had different tongues, so sign language. So we don't have to name a title of nobility to recognize the character of the people on the land. All we got to do is know how the names tie in to the people of the land, right? So once you understand how it works, it's just like reading a comic book. You can see it all lay out in front of you. So they want to confuse us about what side of the ocean we came from. They give us this foreign culture because they're not going to let us use our culture, right? But some of us didn't have anything to do with it. Right? Only 5 civilized tribes was needed to hold the bear at bay long enough for the soldiers to know where to stab him and to put him to rest. Right? Somebody had to hold the bear. That's why most of the treaties are fabricated. They made up by settlers. Have nothing to do with the tribes over here. And when I say the majority of them, I'm talking about like 90% of them.
It said that they were fabricated, or they were like the chiefs came back and said, we ain't signed no treaty with them. Like they like, who signed it? We ain't signing. They said it were people that was posing as them, signing treaties, dressing up like the chief, and doing all kind of stuff.
And you remember, that's what I told y'all, they was using presidential order to make people chiefs. That's not how you become a chief.
Right.
You become a chief by the blood and the right.
Right.
You got to be blood tied to the land. You got to be examined by multiple families across the land. Your family first, then your in-laws across your whoever married. Different family members going to examine you. You're going to put you out in the public and say, go let the people see what we done produced over here. Then you got to go out and you got to carry yourself in your early manhood as a type of dude that makes shit happen. But at the same time, don't take no crap.
Right.
Right. You got to have a certain disposition and character. And then the elder chiefs get wind of you when you touch down on the land. They watch over you. Either gonna sink or he gonna swim.
Right.
In the more different parts of the land that you don't sink, the more elders on that part of the land give you the bop. He's the chief. Which in biblical terms, they're not finding the chief, they find the family redeemer. Why do you need a family redeemer? The family redeemer job is to find all of the rightful heirs, as many as they can, up to 50. When he finds a sufficient number of rightful heirs, up to 50, and he can clearly identify who they is now and who they were back then. And this is why I got to tell them about ODB being Chief Crazy Horse.
Right. Go ahead.
Right. About Busy Bone being Long-Faced Chief out of the Ottawa territory.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Tupac being Tupac Amaru. But he's still Tupac Amaru. He ain't never changed.
Right.
He the same big loudmouth that he used to be. Only now he got control. He know when to shut up and fall back. Teamwork make the dream work. If we ain't all working together, we working against each other.
Right.
Everybody can't do the same job, but everybody got to have a job to do. Right? You a dog man, you got to know where your dog at in the fight, because if you grab that other man's dog, ain't no guarantee he ain't going to bite you.
Right.
Right? But when you grab your own dog, you almost highly unlikely that you're going to get bit.
Right.
Right? So once you know where the fight is, economically, you know it's banking.
Right. Money.
Education, right? You know it got to do with the school system. Entertainment, you know it got Hollywood involved. And if Hollywood involved, you know it ties right back to New York.
Yeah.
And you know if New York involved, it got political influences in it. So that ties right back to DC.
Go ahead.
Right? So it's political, right? You got education, economics, entertainment. Then you got the workforce. Now we talking workers' unions, workers' guilds, skilled trades, masters at a craft, master craftsmen, master masons, master builders.
Right.
Right? The illusion got to reveal itself. And the illusion being is that the master builder is the man, and all the time the man is a secondary builder, because the master builder is the mother who molded him in the womb.
Right.
And let the fruit speak for itself. There was no man able to build anything before he was made in the mother's womb. Right? So now we got economics, education, entertainment, labor. Then we go into law, which is legalese, which is the language of the settler to keep control of the settled so that they don't never rise up and amongst over the colonizer. They got an inclusion doctrine that's an exclusive doctrine.
Go ahead.
The exclusive doctrine is to give you exclusion doctrine. What is it? It's a system of warfare. It's called playing the odds. Right? Play both sides from the middle. Right? So you got to play inclusion, exclusion at the same time. Right? Because you want to mix them together, but you don't want them to know you want them to mix them together, but you give them the doctrine and turn them loose, and then you tell them don't touch each other. He a no good N-word. She a colonizing pale face, whatever the case may be. So now you got the dynamics at play to create chaos, right? So then you go from law to politics, which ties back to the entertainment, which ties back to the Hollywood, which was the wand. And the wand was broke over Queen Elizabeth's coffin because the spell was broke. And Baba said we breaking the spell. So only way to break the spell is expose the mechanics of the spell to the public, and the underbelly of it gonna make it not work. Because now they know the trick about pulling the rabbit out the hat. It's not even a fun trick to watch no more. Just when they thought they wasn't being deceived and they discovered they was being deceived the whole time, it ticks them off because they was going to say David Copperfield not gonna trick me this time, and they got tricked by him once again. The great deception.
Hey, I got another question for you, Rod, because once you say certain things, they give me certain keys or clues to go and put some other things together. I remember you talking about go study other places that the United States colonized, like Iraq, and see how they ran the game to colonize them, right? And with the checkpoints and to creating the police, taking over, turning some of their people to their side, etc. So during the Seminole Wars, this is my question right here. During the Seminole Wars, they steady pumping this storyline that these people were runaway slaves that came from the east to the west. From the west to the east, to help the Seminoles. And AI said that these people were passing checkpoints on the land, and the slave part just added in just to make. Could you go in on that? On the people
Remember,
coming?
we talked about this before.
Yeah, we did. We got a whole tape
Right.
on it. Yeah.
And we talked about also in a different one, we talked about how they was knocking on the doors in the South, talking about the Indian train coming, who want to get on. A lot of the people in the South still tell the story.
Go ahead. I heard.
Right. I said in different people from different family bloodlines in Tennessee, in Georgia, and in Mississippi, and in Alabama. And I heard different people tell the story about the Indian train. It's not an actual train, right? And the story to conceal the Indian train was the caravan going up the Trail of Tears, right? They tell us that it was the Freedom Train, just exactly the opposite, and that it was being ran by liberators like Harriet Tubman. Give you a false narrative to conceal the actual story is the strategy. When they all telling us about their grandparents telling them about the Indian train, we know what it's about because we looking at the people telling it, right? They born in the late 1800s to the 1940s. So the grandparents that's telling them had to be in the first part of the 1800s.
Go ahead.
And they say they knock on the door talking about, do y'all want to get on the Indian train? And our family didn't never believe in the government. So we wasn't finna participate in nothing they was doing. Yeah. And then on paper, we can see following the Dawes Roll and following the registry and the census records, we can see that the people just changed description, but the people on the land was still the same people.
That's right.
From the paper genocide trail. Right. Even erasing us on paper left us a paper trail to trace us back to who we are. Right? If you listen to what the elders are saying, that's why I say I had to listen to a whole lot of old people. For some reason, I used to be wondering, why am I always sitting with these old folks? I don't want to hear what they talking about. Some of them got alcohol on their breath. Some of them got snuff in their lip.
Yeah, they took snuff. Yeah, my grandma.
You know, and I don't want to sit here and watch this old lady spitting in this bucket all day. But I'm gonna be respectful and I'm gonna shut my mouth like my mama said, and I'm gonna listen to everything she say, even if I don't want to. It's a message in there. And if I listen to enough of them, I get my instructions that's in my book of life. Because I keep hearing it repeat itself, even though they all telling a different story. Like the Indian train story going up the Trail of Tears is just culturally different. Like Alabama territory and Arkansas territory is slightly different than Mississippi territory and Louisiana territory. The cultural influence of the tribes that live there is similar, but they slightly different in how they use their slang, how they draw their English. Is slightly different, right? A person that's born and raised in Arkansas and a person born and raised in Louisiana, we could put them together. They know both of them from different parts of the South.
Right.
But somebody in the North don't know what part of the South them brothers from, but they from the South. We know they from the South. We reading the culture. Right? Because when the Arkansas guy with his country draw tell the Louisiana guy with his country draw, you sound country, dog. But they both saying the same thing. And then somebody from the North saying, we speak proper Queen's English with good etiquette, and they talking Where they from?
Right.
And then you can isolate. You can get an echo range from New Orleans. In New Orleans, they got the richest Creole patois in their language, and the way that they draw and scrawl is. But as you drift out from there, it's still country, but it ain't quite the NO.
Once you, because they in a below sea level. See, they down there, they below sea level a certain feet. So the atmosphere is different because they below sea level so low. And then with the influence, because that same act, you can go with that same accent from the Jamaicans, but they shit so broken. It's so broken English, and so like it's so islander. You can't really understand unless you used to hearing them talk a while, right? And then say, "Oh, he said one guang." It's like, what's going on?
Look, you know? And if you from New Orleans, you can listen to Master P from Calio Projects, and then you can listen to my man from, and you know which projects he from.
Yeah.
He don't even got to tell you if you from New Orleans. Oh, now that one of them Fifth Ward boys right there. Oh, he from Ninth Ward. I don't go out to the Ninth Ward. Oh, that boy over there from over there. You know what I mean? They know each other, and so when a stranger come on the land, the stories it echoes. They go the gossip chain in the South is it's not like the gossip chain in the North.
Yeah, that's right.
They give you valuable information on the gossip network in the South. But in the North, they gonna slander you. They gonna talk about you for no reason. And just to be able to tell the story, they gonna carry on all of the malicious and malignant BS they can.
Damn.
Right? But in the South, we need to know who on the land because we need to know who's snatching our babies up. Right. So when they gossip circle get done telling the story of a particular type of vehicle, and all of the sisters in the circle seen it, they going to tell them old men, and them old men gonna come with them shotguns.
Right.
Or worse.
Right.
And when the old men with the shotgun come, them young boys gonna be like, uh-oh. They going back to get some stuff that they call today switches. They not going to get shotguns. Right. But the culture is able to tell us when to move and when to be still. Just like if you read energy, you know, sometimes you're supposed to shut up, stop talking. Because you done got your point across clearly. And sometimes you got to talk more than you want to because your point ain't got all the way across. Right? You reading energy. It's the same way we're reading the culture. Listen to your entertainers tell you where they from and what their bloodline is, and then you'll know why certain ones of them is always kept on the fringes of success, just about there. They might make a pound of money, but they're not gonna never get the spotlight to the same degree as somebody else because they was one of us. Most of us don't know Little Richard was Chief Screaming Hawk. Most of us don't know that Smokey Roberts is Hayoka High Priest. This is why he writing Tears of a Clown. Right? We don't know what this stuff is. We didn't know that Cicely Tyson was an Iroquois high priestess. Right? But they all left messages for the chiefs to be able to pick it out. Right? We don't know LL Cool J Shinnecock. We didn't know Flavor Flav is the Shinnecock. We don't know that almost all of the Wu-Tang Clan original crew is all chiefs working together to put the lingo together on the musical tip in order for the Killer Bees to bring in the swarm of chiefs. Chiefs being plural for chief. Right? It's all being played out because this is the fabric of how reality works.
KR said one. He had Shinnecock. George Clint.
Yeah.
My bad. I must stood up. I would say George Clint. He one of the people. He'll
He
send time.
don't even want, if he don't even want to talk about no Africa
Right.
stuff. He
Hey,
straight.
that's what I was gonna ask you, Rob. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But all of those ones, James Brown.
One of us couldn't.
James Brown was a
Yep.
chief,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I could do this for hours. Sam Cooke, off the Cook clan, old Mississippian. I mean, the list goes on and on. We could sit here and name who's original on the land all day long.
Hey, that brings to my next question, Rod. So do you think, because I heard a lot of stories about how they got these killer clowns got star readers and map sky readers, and they predict, they watch when certain people are gonna be born. They know who the chiefs are, they know when they're gonna return, and they time their death. I mean, over time they birth, and then they watch them and then try to buy them out, turn them, and that's how most of these guys get in the rap game and other industries, is because they got watched and they really targeted them strategically. Because I heard a storyline where they said that in the end they're gonna say we didn't do it to them, they did it to themselves. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna we didn't do it to them. They own chiefs, kept them down. They own chiefs. Right? That's what they said at the end. We didn't do it.
Okay.
They own did it. Go ahead.
What Tupac say? When he said if this was chess, we'd have been screaming checkmate 3 years ago. In this case, it's 20, 29, 33, 36 years ago. We would have been screaming checkmate way back then. But he said there's one problem. We got to get the imposters out now. Checkmate them suckers and execute them. Put it up. Nope. Because we don't know that we ain't fighting pale faces yet. We still thinking that the power structure is some YT people. Right? They not this power structure. They the crash dummies that's been put out in front of us so we can crash out on the wrong people. Half the people in the history books doing the dirt look like us. But when you see them in history, just like the ones that was inventing everything, they painted like somebody else. So now the ones that was doing the good deeds, inventing stuff, creating stuff, been pale skinned out, and the ones doing the actual dirt, the black hand, then also been painted whitewashed out. So now you don't know when you looking at a picture of Karl Marx that you're looking at a picture of Frederick Douglass. And they're the same, they're two different sides of the water. And so you got to know what the comparative analysis is between the two in order to understand where the fraud is being concealed. Lenin looked just like a young Du Bois. Go look it up. You know, it's going to amaze you. There's a couple more of them, other ones too, but those are the easiest ones where the similarities are so obvious. You can't mistake it. Right? Then we know that the communist doctrine was written by C.L.R. James. Right? He from the Caribbean. He trying to tell them how to structure the tribe. They trying to capitalize off of community living. This is what made communism not work. You can't capitalize. There's no capitalism under community living. Right? That's why they had to get rid of John Africa. He was teaching community living. Soon as you start living community living, you start deteriorating the old system. This takes us back to where we started, about acquiring jurisdictional supremacy.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a fiat system and the gold-back system at the same time. One of them got to give way to the other one. They shut our banks down with economic hitmen called outlaw bank robbers.
Yeah, Jesse
But
James is always
that was to serve two purposes.
yeah,
To associate the bank robber with the outlaw, because the tribes who refuse to sign treaties are called outlaw tribes.
right.
Right? But Big Mama Bank is getting shut down by bank robbers, economic hitmen. Right? And then so now when they do the publicity,
Jesse was working for the government. I gotta take him out of there.
yeah, not just
He
him.
was a Freemason, a Knights of Templar working for the government.
Who you think was Bonnie and Clyde was working for? They robbed all them banks and they ain't got no money. Come on, man. Think about that. Where they put the money at? They robbing all them banks, but they don't got no money. Who got the money?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes
That's the
sense
same
now,
thing for was it Billy the Kid? All of those bank robbers, they were systematically robbing our banks. Just they did it in where Black Wall Street was. They was robbing banks.
And the bank trains.
Anywhere, yeah. And the train was a transport, you know, settling of the debt.
Yeah.
Right. We was already doing that. Our method was interrupted. This is where you get your Pony Express from. Right? We had courier systems across the land. I told you, Big Mama tell you exactly where your plot of land was, but she ain't never left the house. I've been living there my whole life. I ain't never seen Big Mama leave. I'm 56 years old. But when she give you the directions to your plot of land, it's gonna look, you're gonna see exactly what she tell you looking for. Right? So we got communication networks that predate all of the stuff we see around us today. It's just that most of us are so disconnected from the culture and so saturated with the out of Africa concept that we never look back to the real culture we from. We look to the foreign culture. Right? But when you do a comparative analysis, you find that some of the tribes over there got a similar culture, but a seasoned a little bit different. Almost like looking at people from New Orleans talk to people from Arkansas. They both from down south, but they seasoned just a little bit different. One of them got that old Creole boil, right? The other one got that Big Papa's old school mix, whatever they call it. The juke, they put the juke on the joint. But
they eat monkeys over there. We eat coons over here.
Yeah, all that. Like people in the north be like, ew, he eat coon.
Yeah, we roast that coon while
Man, coon, possum. Right?
I don't really like that possum.
Well, I don't like the way now one of them look. Look, I open my auntie. Look, my auntie used to be married to a dude named Junebug. Junebug is a scarab beetle in Egypt. Right? It's the same concept. The Junebug job is to look for the chief.
Go ahead.
And because remember that the mythology that surrounds Kefra,
look for the sun.
Right? Kefra is the dung beetle, but it's also the sun before it rises.
Yeah.
And they tell us that the Kefra beetle rolls the ball of dung across the sky as the sun.
Yeah.
Right? I mean that, in other words, Kefra is the scout looking for a budding chief in order to alert his clan that there's a chief rising on the land.
Go ahead.
Right? Remember you was talking about how they read the stars and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, when you from the culture produces itself in front of you, and if you read the culture, the names make sense.
Uh-huh.
You know, so once you understand what everything is, now you know what you're working with in unraveling the secrets that they're using to keep us under control. All this stuff coming to an end. We at end game now.
Man, it's like once you find out that King George sent the goons in on us, and he paid the goons, Man, after that, man, it really hurt your feelings to see somebody on the corner with a King James version of the Bible saying, "Come join this charter." That's what it is. It's a charter. The King James Bible is a charter. That's what it is. Man, I'm telling you, it's like a contract.
Which was the next on that list of the after politics, you got religion.
Go ahead.
Right? The word religion means to tie back down. Right? And it's also a mirror of two other words. Re and legios is Latin, but when you look at it, it's the legion of Ra, is the Ra's many, which is the many chiefs, the many little sons. Right? So now it's talking two things at one time. It's telling you who they trying to tie down, right? And that they trying to tie you back from doing your work by trapping you in this contract. The Bible is the foundation of the Constitution. That's thinking.
But they tell you that it came from the Quran. Something's got another group. I guess that's the Moors.
That's the Moors.
The Moors from Muslim law. Right?
But look, Islamic law, they don't want Sharia law for real. I promise you, you do not want Sharia law. Half of them can't even follow the rule of Salat, let alone try to follow Sharia law in its totality. We got more laws on the books than they do in Sharia law, but I guarantee you that consequences is more severe.
Yeah, take that boy back and stone him.
If it say stoned him when Muhammad was here, you getting stoned today under real Sharia law. If it say tar and feather you in Muhammad during Muhammad time, that's what they gonna do. They gonna tar and feather you, right? We got to know what we're dealing with. Our cultures are here. Our culture is here. You know, you got all these different chiefs sitting here watching right now, looking at Rod Hayes talking about, man, you done woke the tribes up.
Everybody rocking up.
Right. I'm telling you where to find us at. I'm telling you that all of this stuff, the hand behind it right now is a group of chiefs in Raven Rock, Colorado. Exactly which one's down there, I don't have to know. That's not required. I just got to tell you where the moves is being made from. Who making the moves? Is it the enemy or is it us? Remember, I told you got to know where your dog at in the fight. Because if you don't know where your dog at in the fight, you're going to grab the wrong dog and get bit.
Hey, somebody said that Donald Trump, you heard anything about that, about Donald Trump going on promoting the Confederate? Well, I listened to the tape that they said, but he ain't never mentioned Confederate. He just mentioned some Confederate schools that so happened to be all Confederate schools. And when you study the Union philosophy versus the Confederate philosophy, could you go in, because this ties in with the guns and butter? We going now. But you know anything about the Confederate philosophy, which was the South, and then the Union philosophy?
Listen,
go ahead.
The Confederate philosophy is the Iroquois Confederacy document.
Okay.
Right. It's the same place that they derived the okay, so the
same flag, right?
Yeah. That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's the origin of the Confederacy. Yeah. They lied to us and told us it was two groups of Europeans fighting each other, and then we was involved in it because we was fighting to keep people in slavery in the South and fighting to free them from slavery in the North. That's the biggest crock of BS they ever told us.
Yeah, that's a lot.
The Confederacy, the true Confederacy, was the Southern Confederacy of Iroquois tribes. The Iroquois tribes was the host family of the Iroquois, or what they call the Gullah Wars, right? The Yamasee tribes and the Muskogee Creek tribes and the Creek tribes, all of the Creek tribes, they were named after the creek near where they from.
Yeah.
right? So they was something Creek, River Creek, Black Creek, right? But they was the Creek tribe. You, if you see somebody Creek on the end of their last name, you know what I'm saying, like River Creek, Black Creek, they are actually Creek Indian.
That's right.
That's the actual blood names that was translated into English from how they identified the subsets in their family groupings. So earlier you was mentioned about the tribes coming from west to east, and they clandestine as runaways. They had their checkpoints. Well, remember, they had to set up Georgia as a buffer zone.
Yep, they did.
They were stopping the arrival of new tribes from reinforcing the war because the hot spot was Florida.
That's right.
You got to remember when they first came, they landed on the islands just south of Florida before they launched into the mainland. Primarily, the island today that they was calling Dominica, Haiti, they was calling it Hispaniola.
Yeah.
Right. And then you had the Cuban island and a couple of the Virgin Islands. All these was launch points and reinforcement points for the Spanish Armada that was trying to force their way through Florida.
Yeah.
France, on the other hand, came through around the south of the Spanish.
Yeah.
And they landed on the other side of Hispaniola. This is how you split the island's linguistics. But they arrived after fighting in the Gulf at the port of Nola, the intake. And then they fought in the War of New Orleans. They fought for the protectorate, right? They captured the outpost that's called the Port of New Orleans.
Yeah, it's military barracks.
Right. So one of the tribes negotiated a ceasefire agreement with the French Huguenots in New Orleans to stop them from advancing.
Damn, Rod. No, the Huguenots is the one that brought the reclassify. They the one that came out with the idea to reclassify us and steal our land. The black Christian codes, all lit.
You gotta remember the French and the Spanish both come from the Latin.
Okay.
Legalese is Latin. Our classifications is done through barristers. This takes you back to 1862, 1863, when King George
in Georgia
commissioned the barristers to seize and confiscate everything we have. Now they have to create a legal structural framework. In that legal structural framework, they got to write it down, and then they just got to wait for us to forget who he is. By miseducating the children, you can accelerate it. Go back to the George Washington Challenge.
Yeah.
They said they would go purposely teach us some lies. Right? Then you go to the most violent, bloody oath for the papacy. They said they're going to kill the people, the kings, the princes, and the people of the land. Well, we didn't call ourselves that, but they invading our land. That's what we would call what became known as our chiefs, which is also an exonym. That's not a name that we use. We just use it now because the foreigners recognize us as chiefs based on continuous usage, not on because that's who we called ourselves. Right? So now we have to adapt. We accept being referred to as the chief until we can get the imposters off the land.
Yeah.
Then we can go back to reclassifying our leadership according to our tribal structures.
Hey man, this is my next question for you, Rod. Now, once we get them off the land, and that's what Elijah Muhammad referred to as the hereafter, right? Once we get the devil out of here, right? Now, how are we gonna clean all the pollution? Because they said that when like Christopher Columbus said in his diaries, he said their water is crystal clear. Their land is so beautiful, it's clean. You know, it's not because in Europe they had the dark age where it was no real disease. They were really rampant,
Okay,
nasty.
pump the brakes. I'm glad you brought that up, Elder. Pump the brakes for 1 minute, though.
Go ahead.
You just gave a description of the condition of the Americas in the time of Columbus. What was he comparing them conditions to? And then you brought up the Dark Ages. How long was the Moors supposed to be in Europe civilizing? From 711 to 1493.
Yeah.
Why they wasn't civilized still?
Go ahead. That's a good question.
Think about that for a second. They over there civilizing them.
Cleaning them up. Yeah.
Right? Teaching them how to be of noble character and quality. To teach them how, they're supposed to be training them and and they supposed, if you civilizing somebody, you teaching them cleanliness is next to godliness. If you civilizing them. You teaching them how to organize and keep stuff in a systematic order so that they can more smoothly run society. Why when they get over here, you see how he described America? Yeah. They still don't know how to take a bath.
Yeah.
Let it sink in. The grievance over is in the statues over there. It's in the art. The problem that they vexing is the abuse of the children, using the children for adrenochrome and sex toys. That's their grievance why they was getting rid of the so-called Moors, right? They created all three monotheistic religions out of Coptic doctrine, fused with Babylonian blood magic. Babylonian money magic, Babylonian sex magic, that's being taught in the Talmud and the Mishnah, and then they giving you something called the Torah as if that's the book of their tribe. The Torah is the book of the law, right? And as soon as they can get you to take sides with somebody in their book, they got you. You taking a side with the people that's doing all the dirt in the whole book. Ain't none of the other people in the book doing the dirt but these people. And they supposed to be God's people, but we forget that the devil is God too, according to their doctrine. Right? The only thing he don't got the power to is to F you up without God permission. But as we see in Job, if God give him the permission, he can ping pong you all around the land and give you the worst miserablest life he could possibly conjure up in his wicked mind.
Wow.
Right?
That's right.
So what make you think you better than Job in God's eyes? Because he said Job was a righteous and upright man, and God knew Job wasn't gonna never curse the name of the Most High. Do what they tell us in the book. But God, the same one who named he won't curse, the same one who he's staying faithful, dedicated, and loyal to is the same one sick the devil on. Because the devil didn't ask first. God sick the devil on him. He didn't. The devil didn't say anything. He said, hey, what you doing here? I was roaming back and forth to and fro, looking for who I may devour. Right? And he said, well, wait a minute, I got one for you, player. You see my boy Job? You see my boy Job over there, right? Pimping ain't easy, baby. Watch how this is the most loyal one I ever had put on the track.
That's facts.
And then he said, yeah, I would go ahead and I would go at it, but you got all your, protection around him and everything. And them bodyguards Job got ain't no joke. But he said, no, I'm gonna pull him off. I'm gonna let you have your way with Job. Only thing you just can't kill Job. And in the end of the day, Job can come back home. So look, the devil go attack Job. So what make you think you better than Job that God won't ransom and gamble you? And what kind of God would ransom and gamble his most loyal subject?
Number one guy.
His number one guy. Why would you ransom him? Why would you offer him up to the enemy as bait? For what? Oh, he was just testing you. Just wanted to, I thought he knew.
Yeah.
He knew, but he wanted to prove to the devil. Why he got to prove something if he God?
That's crazy.
Right? So they got us following they edicts under the so we can be trapping ourselves in their own conjure by deliberately choosing ignorance over information.
That's right. And you know something, Rod?
Where we informed at the same time.
Right. And then so from my understanding, overstanding, that King James and them didn't bring the Bible at first. They came in 1607, and then they said, "Oh, we got to come up with something that we can enslave them with." And it took them 4 years later, with 1611, when they came back with the joint. They didn't come back with the joint really heavy till the like after that. You know what I'm saying? A couple years
You
later.
got to keep in mind. Okay, so at this time,
Water.
nobody's bringing no religious books yet. We in full throttle warfare with Spanish exiles.
Yeah. Yeah.
With French exiles.
Yeah.
With English outcasts. Remember, they try to tell us that the colonies was made up of English outcasts.
Yeah, convicts.
The prisoners, the prostitutes from the brothels.
Yeah. Yeah.
But during the Moorish reign, who owned the brothels?
The Moors.
Think about that for a minute. So if the brothels was owned by the Moors, then who owned the prisons?
The Moors.
Had to.
Yeah.
Because they were supposed to be the civilized ones on the land, teaching the other ones how to be civilized.
Right.
But they ain't teaching them civilization. Because we know that because they had jails over there, and they had prostitutes over there, and they had orphans over there that they was trying to dispose of. How do we know that? Because they said that they came over here with their indentures who was exiles from the crown to work the land.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How you gonna work somebody else's land? Make it make sense.
Right.
How you gonna get us in? How you gonna get us in there where the people who landed is not gonna rebel?
Yeah.
Right? We're gonna hire you as a consultant firm. Right? So they tell the story to move them in and give them Big Mama Farm.
Yeah.
But all the time, the people that's giving them the farm is the ones who's selling the land, not the people from the land.
Right.
Right. And they're using the paperwork as the verification of their right to do so. But it's only one problem. All of the tribes over here was matrilineal and didn't believe in selling land.
That's right.
So when we understand that part of it, we know that anybody that's selling land for any reason other than deception and force, which is 99% of the reason. And if they was forced into selling the land, or if they was defrauded into it by using trickery and deception through sharecropping agreements, we know from that paper trail that the sharecroppers, where they get the land from.
Right.
When you go back to you could Google this. The most heirs land in America right now is owned to African Americans, as they call us.
Okay.
How do we got heirs land and we ain't never been allowed to buy no land until the 1970s? They wouldn't let us buy land. They wouldn't let us sell land, trade land. They wouldn't let us in none of their learning institutions or higher learning. So they doing all this in our face, behind our back.
Right.
And we got to figure out how to take them over while they trying to take us over.
They said that on that. It's a tape that I got coming out about the Lewis and Clark expedition. And they said that when they came through, there was some people on the land. And then they came to them, knocked on the door, and then they come to him and say, "Look, man, you can either sell this land And they're like, oh well, we can't. I don't sell. We gonna sell land. We don't even know what that is.
Hold on,
And then
hold on. You overlooking what you're saying.
yeah,
Look, they had a translator, didn't they?
yeah, Ben York.
And who was he talking to that he needed to translate the language for Lewis and Clark?
The Native Americans.
And how far across the land did they go before they turned around and came back?
They went all the way up into Washington, past Oregon, Washington, all the way up into Seattle.
Ain't that the Pacific coast over there?
Yeah. They went
Okay.
over to the coast.
And they needed a translator at several places between, right?
Yeah. Pretty much the
I mean,
Lakota people.
it had to be people. It had to be people there.
Yeah.
It had to be. You don't need a translator to go across a barren land that don't got no people.
Damn sure right. He had a dog with him too. Ben York had a dog and he had an assistant. Ben York had an assistant with him, like because Ben York was like a hunter, like, and he was real charismatic. You know how the Moors, they think they playboys or whatever. But this another thing it said that was interesting. It said that Lewis and Clark told them that you can stay here on the land, but you got to sign this paperwork saying that you changed your status, and we'll let you stay on the land. Pretty much, they went around turning all the natives that was on the land into sharecroppers, and by stealing their birth.
So that was the North American salvage right.
Okay, go ahead.
You gotta remember that when they said that we crashed, we had to crash. Plymouth Rock landed on us.
Oh yeah, it did say something about that too, about the savage rights and the abandoned land.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Lewis and Clark were surveyors.
That's right.
Right. And Ben York was more than a surveyor.
Yeah.
He served as the official translator on record, but he was the actual operative geologists, geometrists, geologists on the land.
Right. He could tracker. He was a good tracker.
They tell you all the stuff he could do when you read they tell you a lot about him and they don't use his name.
Yeah.
Why do they, we know who it is, but when they telling the story, they always say the black slave.
Yeah. Yeah. Enslaved man.
Who was the slave master of Ben York?
They said it was Lewis and Clark. That's a lot, though.
It's not possible.
It's too many.
Because he was born, look, Ben York was born a free man of Negro descent as the son of Old York and his wife in Virginia.
Yeah.
Right? A free man. He was born a free man, and now he is the designer, the first almanac, because we know Ben Bay to be Benjamin Banneker.
Right, I heard that story too. I heard that.
Right? That's who he is.
Yeah.
Now, the irony of it all is his fez is in the Fez Memorial at the George Washington Masonic Memorial as one of the dirty Moors that we've been fighting. And his offspring. Right? This is why they don't tell us who this is traveling across the land with Lewis and Clark in the Lewis and Clark story. But when we study the story of Benjamin Banneker and how he learned all of these languages by the time he was 21, and then we learned that he was the one who wrote the first almanac, made the first clock in North America. What the hell you mean clock when the Mayan clock been here for thousands of years?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what do you mean the first clock? Now we talking about tying in the clock of destiny with the Big Ben clock in London by tying Big Ben to the clock of destiny in America in the Moorish paradigm. They telling you exactly who they are, but they telling them that they hiding among you.
Look, so
You thinking that because 1806 is when they said they get a storyline. I got the whole storyline of Benjamin Banneker about to come out too. I already did the storyline already a long time ago. I'm just gonna redo it. But they said that in 1806, that the Knights of Templar raided his house, burned it down, stole some paperwork, whatever paperwork he had, and then they also said that he was working with George Washington as a secret agent for the British Crown. And it also said that make the timelines line up with what you're saying now about being York, because the Louisiana Purchase was in 1803, and so then it'd be 3 years later he get took out by Knights of Templar. So I don't know who took him out. They said he took off walking. The storyline they give, he took off walking, and then he came down with some kind of illness and died the same day. I was like, man, these people, they tell us whatever, you know. But
yeah, and 9 out of 10, it was a poison dart.
Probably, yeah.
From an air gun.
Yeah.
Then the air gun probably traced back to some tribe out of South America.
Yeah.
We was calling all tribes on deck.
Yeah, Big York traced back to. Man. Oh.
You right over there?
Oh yeah, keep going, Rod. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So the tribes that came from everywhere, from South America and the islands, to fight in the Gullah Wars. And they used a legal system in a fractional reserve banking system after they closed all of our stuff down to it's a hostile takeover. It was a military invasion that was masqueraded as government expansion. But it was actually territory expansion of a foreign agency, a foreign government across the land of the people. Yep.
Hey, Rod, we're gonna keep on. What I was gonna tell you. We're gonna take some questions for the crowd. Hey, y'all, drop your comments in the crowd real quick in the chat.
What you say, Elder?
I say we're at the hour and 30-minute mark. We could take questions from the crowd. But you've been going in tonight, man. You just gave me some stuff on some more connections while I was trying to connect it, Ben York and Benjamin Banner, because I was going to put that tape out. And so now you just gave me a couple.
That's who Ben York is.
Yeah, I heard that before, but now you just gave me the final piece that I need to tie in to put it together.
Mm-hmm. Look, who was the girl with Lewis and Clark?
That's what yeah. And who was the other dude that was with Ben York? The other black dude, or the other dude they said that was with him?
Look, Sacagawea was the girl that traveled with Ben York, right, and Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, he had a
she
son.
Had a son. And his son name was Jean-Baptiste, not Dusable, but it was something else. Jean-Baptiste. Oh, let me look it up. I'm gonna look it up.
And his son became chief, right? Of the Shoshone.
I'm about. That's where I'm going with this. I'm about to show y'all how the trick work.
Yeah, Sacagawea. They got a statue of her holding the baby.
Charbonneau.
Yeah.
Look, his name is Jean-Baptiste Charbonneau. Right? That's supposed to be her son with Ben York. Right now, the city of Chicago, which was there it's been there for thousands of years, but they credit it with a Jamaican, a Haitian dude, named Jean-Baptiste Dusable. Right? They're stealing his identity. And they're using Charbonneau to do it. Because Charbonneau also was a resident of the territory that gave birth to the modern city of Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And they telling the Jean-Baptiste du Sable story because he could have been appointed by Sacagawea to the land right of the territory.
Right.
But he can't tell nobody he being York's son, because if they find out he being York's son, they know he's an imposter and an interloper.
Go ahead. Makes sense.
So they assigned it to this priest, a Vadun priest out of Haiti, and they changed his name. That ain't his birth name, wasn't Jean-Baptiste du Sable. Jean-Baptiste du Sable the sable mean black. It means John the Black Baptist is what it means.
Damn.
Right? And the name Charbonneau, let me look up the meaning of it so I can read it to y'all.
Shabazar. That sounds like it's connected to the tribe of Shabazz or something. Because being York would be connected to the tribe of Shabazz, being that he was supposedly a Moor from West Africa. Or well, his dad was from West Africa. His mother was from Barbados. If you're going with the
now check this out. Now remember, his name is John Baptiste du Sable. Now watch this. Charbonneau is the surname of French origin given for a coal merchant, or as nickname for someone with a dark complexion.
Go ahead.
Right? It's the same name.
Black John.
John the Black Baptist. Right? And they give his 18. So he was born after Du Sable, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
But their name mean the same thing. And both of them tied to the city of Chicago. That's how you usurp. Remember, Enlil named his sons after Enki's sons when Enki started getting the upper hand.
That's right.
So that when the posterity fight for Enki's son, they think they fighting for Enki's son all the time. They fighting for Enlil's son.
That's right.
Right. And this is how you know the difference. It's the same story today played out as this was written in them tablets thousands of years ago. But if you don't know the whole story, you won't be able to see it being played in your face. As soon as you go back and get them old stories, now when they playing in your face, you be like, man, y'all did that shit 10,000 years ago. Can't you find some other kind of way to try to deceive me now? It's old.
Right.
It's tired now. I know you don't still think it's gonna work, but you still think it's gonna work again. Right. So once we see it, you can't unsee it.
So how do we treat the colonizers now? Like do we treat them hostile? Do we treat them like, hey, we know and we just ain't gonna say nothing?
Okay, so now we got to go to why all these people came over here. That's a whole nother story separate from the political dynamic. Now we talk about diversification of genetic fields. We talking about the establishment of bloodlines of the future using the bloodlines of today. Right? You talking about tying into the vine. You talking about grafting off the vine. You talking about establishing different seeds for different lineages to progenerate. They call it the one-drop doctrine for a reason. And the story of the one-drop doctrine is in the Sumerian tablets, is where Enki is telling them how to cure the genetics of the humans with the defects created by Enlil's son, trying to play God, not knowing what he was doing. Right? Nergal, they call him from Nibiru to help fix the problem. And they say, did y'all ask Tahuti and Enki? And they say, we don't want to ask them. He said, I can't help you. So they banished him to the underworld, where he meet a Rishka gal. The story is not different. It's the same metaphorical story played out today, but using different characters to play the story out in modern times, right? You got the puppet master. It's the same puppet master, even though the puppet is different, right? He only got so many ways to play and pretend to be this particular puppet before it becomes, you can recognize even when the puppet changed that the character the same.
Right. Hey, so I was wondering why they were so interested in Chicago, because they said it was, that's when Chief Pontiac, that's what really the kickoff, the beginning of the wars is with Chief Pontiac in the Michigan, Chicago area. And it seemed like to me, they were trying to get tactical command of the water, the Great Lakes. That's a significant fresh water. I mean, that's a significant area right there for Native Americans in that land. So by starting with Chief Pontiac, and you come in as the embodiment of that spirit that was
Successor.
falling on men, huh?
Yeah, I gotta solve his beef.
Yeah, it started right there with the Moors,
Yeah,
there with the Moors, the British Moors. Yeah,
and the French. It was
Yeah.
primarily the French.
yeah.
You gotta remember, Detroit was the capital.
Go ahead.
The territory of Chief Pontiac stretched from Detroit to Chicago to Pontiac, Illinois.
Go ahead.
Right. We only had metropolises and villages. We didn't have sub-cities. Today, the tribes of the Flintstones, they still inhabit Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. We call them Flintstones is because they used to, not far from Flint, they used to mine Flintstone.
Go ahead.
This is where you get your cartoon characters from, working in the rock mines. The rock mine became characteristic of the auto plants, and that's where the Union first started in Flint, Michigan. Right? It was triggered by the treaties of the Flint Indians with the Saginaw Indians and several other local tribes, that people can't exploit you for your labor. This what gave rise to the labor unions. And the corporation, aka the government, hired corporate and the corporations, they hired protesters to protest the organizing of the labor force under the what's called guild principle, GUILD. The guild principle was where all of the people that work in the profession stabilize the value of their workload, so that you can't be exploited, and I won't let nobody exploit you if you don't let nobody exploit me. This gave birth to your labor unions, but it started off as workers' guilds. Before it was workers' guild, it was family professions, where you pass down what your father did to the son, but people wanted to strike out on their own, so they wanted to be specialized in other areas. So you start out developing the guilds, which is the precursor to the skilled trades monitoring systems that gave birth to workers' unions. All of the workers' unions came from the organizing of workers' guilds before the unions was ever started. And this was agreements that tribes used to make on the land to maintain stable financial balance in the workload. That way, if this job deserves $8 an hour, right? For example, if it's 10 of us that know how to do it, we all should be paid $8 an hour to do this job, right? Now, just because we in different areas and we don't communicate, there's no standard of what we might charge. One of us might find that he's got a niche crowd where the demand is too high for him to do it at $8 an hour. He's gonna do it for 10. which raises his stock value. But you might not have the same capability. So to compete with him, you have to decrease the value per hour that you making. Now this split the wages, right? This is how you play two sides from the middle, right? We overwhelm him with demand. He got to jack his prices up. For you to compete for survival, you have to lower your prices down, right? But we still getting paid by the same people, right? And the first time one of us have to lower our prices, we devalue the underlying production of what we produce, right? Because this is how you end up in the auto industry going from luxury car to economy car. What's the difference? They bought cars.
Yeah.
Right? They all charge a high percentage more than it take to make them in order for you to buy one. Like you can go, it might cost them $1,800 to build a Mazda G6. It's only gonna cost them $2,000 to build a Cadillac Escalade. The price of production is not that much different, right? But the economy cars is what you get the people to make in order to be able to make the Escalade at a higher value. Because now you're giving it back to the customer the way you paying out the wages.
Man, it's a game. Oh, it's like hand over fist. It's hustle and hand.
Yeah.
Let's go back to guns and butter. Guns and butter. That ties into the topic with everything you're saying. It ties into the topic. Guns versus butter. So it stands the reason the people who are passing out the butter and taking in the guns, it's got a systematic hand over fist hustle here, man. You got to figure out the hustle or you would get hustle. Seems like to me. Huh?
Yep. So it's the same with it. Any child going out in New York will be exposed to the kind games. He gonna walk past somebody playing 3-card money. He gonna walk past somebody playing 3-shell shuffle. Right? He gonna walk past somebody playing all these kinds. He gonna run past people that playing instruments with a hat out front of them, singing sometimes. He gonna walk across the people that made a creative drum set out of buckets and pans, right? Just because everybody got a different ability. When you don't know what these games is, you become food for the environment. You get consumed. You always 2 steps behind what the environment is doing because you don't know the rules to the game. Remember what Tupac say? Once you get an understanding of the game and the rules of the game, right? Life ain't a struggle no more. It's a trick, and it's a trick to be played. Voila, pull a rabbit out the hat. Black girl magic, just like that. It's a return of the peace stones. When they tell you stone run it, they talking about that's the law. G's govern it. We the politicians. They the enforcers. We the politicians. We the statesmen. Right? So when we rise up, we gotta be well versed in both of them, not to disrespect either of them. We all born off the Vice Lord line. Right? And all of this takes us back to unraveling who's who across the land. And how do we understand who we are faced with an enemy that look like us that ain't us? Right? It's hiding behind people that don't look like us, telling us that they the problem when they following the rules just like the rest of us is.
Right. It's like they keeping us in a spin, in a whirlwind, while they sit back and collect the guns. They collecting the guns and they put us on the butter where we can slip on the butter.
You remember when they say that the gypsies they come to town, they perform, they do crystal ball readings and read tarot cards for you, and people used to talk bad about the gypsies, right?
Yeah.
But there was another group of people in India called jugglers, and they had all these different magicians, right? And they all doing some fancy trick, and they come to town, it's like the circus. But it's less controlled than the circus. It looked like pure chaos.
Yeah.
Over here, you got to do balancing one finger on the bottle. Right over there, you got a girl with a hula hoop doing backflips at 30 miles a minute. Right, you got people juggling, swallowing swords, eating fire. All of this is just sensory overload coming to your local village. Right, that's called the razzle dazzle.
Damn.
Right, because when you come with the razzle dazzle, you have so many things going on at one time, and people that sensory deprived become sensory overloaded, and that delirium allow you to manipulate them out of their money. It's called the razzle dazzle. It's adopted from the old juggler circuses from before colonization of India, what we used to be called Hindustan.
Yeah,
and before that, it was, Ethiops, but it was the ether, when they referred to it. Right. So what gave rise to Ethiops' burnt faces is also Latin aether, which is ether. So you're jumping from two different cultures. The Greeks speak Greek. The Romans speak Latin. So when the Greeks is telling us about the land of the burnt faces, they was talking about the land of the sun faces.
Right.
Which is the manifest aether or ether.
Right.
Symbolized by the sun in this traverse across the sky. This is your story of the rise of the chief from Amen to Aten. But first he had to go through Kether. Right? And as he ascends to the apex, which is Aten position, which is high noon in the old cowboy movies, it's the final showdown. It's almost 12 o'clock on the doomsday clock. Right? And what Rakim say? He say, "Oh man, I forgot how he said it." I ain't gonna butcher his lyrics because he's too good for me to do that. But he was talking about the appearance of the seventh angel, right? And it was gonna be right in the nick of time to stop disaster. They over there flirting with nuclear war, but the Galactic Council already said that if they tried nuclear war, they'd shut down all their war machines.
Yeah. They already
So
said
I'm like, go ahead, shoot another one up in the sky if you want to. It will immediately topple their old system. They ain't gonna do that.
They tried to shoot it up because they was testing them out of space, right? And they shot it up, and then one of them crafts just came out of nowhere, and the missile was flying at 15,000 miles an hour. It just came up, shot it like 3 times, deactivated it, darted off back into outer space. I said, man,
they didn't just do it once.
Yeah, a couple times.
They even have them. It was a reactor that was reaching critical mass for explosion. Right? They shut it off.
Damn.
They got a whole lot of recorded in the, especially when you go into that field of ufology.
Yeah.
They're very active around the nuclear plants because remember, we in this from nuclear war.
Yeah.
We coming out of the ice age that was an artificially induced ice age, right, which created another cycle inside of a cycle inside of a cycle.
Right.
right? Which was a triple infinity loop, right? So in order to get out of it, you have to play it all simultaneously from the fifth dimension, but it had to be acted out or descriptively displayed in the third dimension in order for it to finally come into fruition or for the power to take. In other words, the creator God's got to collapse the reality from the wave form to the particle form, from the possibility to the certainty. The wave form is infinite possibility, right? And the particle form is absolute probability. You're going from possibility to probability. The likelihood collapses the reality. And I'm telling you, we only here today because we used yesterday to get here, mentally speaking. All things are mind, made up of the contents of the mind. It's just our imagination running away again.
Just our imagination. Running away with me.
Now, what we're trying to do now is find a sunshiny day, right? And we're just trying to get a little bit further after the pain because we all understood no pain, no gain. So we understood Betty when she called up to have a conversation woman to woman. But we was just children. We didn't know what we was listening to. Right? Then we heard them when they told us that tonight is the night. Right? And she wanted to make her a woman. In other words, the queen need to be crowned the queen in order for her to be seen. So they bring in all of the bees from the hive, the killer bees, which is the killer G's. The G's is the sevens. The sevens working for the twos. The twos is the sisters. The sisters sending out the SOS. Because the sisters of the struggle activate the brothers of the struggle when the bully come around in order to go get his sister's stuff back. So when it's all said and done, it all comes back to one. And then you get back to the I-10, back to the high noon of it all.
Hey, bro.
Right.
We got about 3 minutes. Hey, man, if y'all want to show Brother Rod Hayes some love, we got his Cash App and his PayPal if you can't get the Cash App on the screen. And we'll take one. I got one more question for you, Rod. We got about 3 minutes. Somebody asked, could you go in on how important, and you probably went over this 1,000 times, but how important is the totem poles and how do they find, they say they want people asking about the totem poles and how do they find their tribal totem poles?
The tribes use totem poles. We make our own totem poles. You got to design your totem pole. The totem pole is it ties to your totem animal, which is your spirit animal. We didn't use flags. We are only using flags under the jurisdiction of Admiralty and Maritime that was doing a salvage operation on the land. And wherever the ship landed, he had to fly a flag. That's why they got an American flag in every state capital, wherever the state capital building is. Right? And in order to tell you who was conquered, they put the state flag under the United States flag so you know that this territory was conquered by the corporation known as the United States. And they used the postal zones to parcel out the land in order to determine how to break the land up. So the totem poles used to tell more information than the flag, and they used to tell you how your tribe is affiliated with the land.
So like an address for your tribe.
Yeah, but we normally used to keep them at what's called great junctions. Great junctions was travel paths, right? When you get to a travel path, in order to know if you're in hostile territory or friendly territory, you have to know the totem of the people that you're at peace with and at war with. right? So you can use the totem poles that the local tribe produce, because it's local tribes in every city and every tribe's not far from you that's still doing tribal stuff on the land, and we even have ceremonial tribes to make sure that some of this stuff is still being done. The ceremonial tribes that's working with us, because there's a lot of them, because they have no problem with us saying we the original people of the land, and they will also tell you that. But the imposter interloper tribes are the ones that gets dismayed by us telling y'all that we the original people of the land. Right? So your totem pole is absolute definitive that you from the land and that you don't honor the law of the flag, you honor the law of the totem pole, which ties to the original tribes.
Hey, fire, man. And on that note, we at the 2:00 mark, and we can close it out. Hey, Raw, you got anything you want to say before we get up out of here?
No, just we didn't got it in tonight. I tried to make it as clear as possible. So from here on,
you got some heavy duty alchemy tonight. Some heavy duty alchemy, man. I'm going to go back and dissect this. Let AI do analogies on it.
Tell them what you be doing with the AI videos so they know to watch them, because they got valuable information.
So what I be doing is, like, if Rod give me something, or if I watch one of Rod tapes and find like something that he said, I go take it to AI, make it and do I just really take notes from all the classes, give it to the AI, and let AI do analogies on the tape. So especially the one y'all really need to go check out is that last flag in the spirit and truth, man. That tape right there, that analogies on that stuff Roy Hayes gave me off of that one, that tape really break down on how because if people was asking about the postmaster, that tape really break down on how the whole get down. Let's get down. The whole get down. We needed that tape, Roy. I appreciate you for that. We needed that tape, that postmaster tape. Because it gave us another. It's like it was like a small thing that everybody passed by. You pass by the post office every day. You don't never think that the post office is the real game. Post office is the real hustle.
Our couriers. This how you end up with UPS, FedEx. Those are our private couriers. Amazon is even a private courier now. Right. But all of the couriers used to be privately owned because they used to be the courier assigned by a tribe to go and pick the shipments up from wherever they go. Most of our travels was different across the land, but the principle of the courier evolved into what we call a postmaster. The postmaster used to run the trading post. And the trading post is where we would leave parcels for people. And that's why the trading post and the post office became one and the same.
Right.
We had trading posts. They looked like Walmart back then, for lack of a better way to put it. This is where the concept of Walmart, Myers, and all that stuff come from.
Makes sense.
It comes from us having warehouses to put people's things in, where people want to sell goods and store goods, right? Sense. They would go to the trading post, right? We know that if I go to the trading post, I need 50 pounds of potatoes, but I don't grow potatoes. This where the barter and trade system was more valuable than the gold and silver system, because it was common for people to have a person at the trading post who would gladly be the medium for exchange between two people exchanging goods. And then the goal was what's called the alchemical balance. So you should be accustomed to give the one who the postmaster felt was giving up the most. They would give them the gold coins, right? Because the frequency of the gold is to balance out the energy exchange, right? They used to give them the gold coin or gold nugget, And the gold nugget was to bring them back in the balance of the wealth that they surrendered plus some. It always give you more than what you lost. The loss is always return. This is where we get our concept in suffering of pre-karma. We go through it and catch the blues, and then poof. Yep. Time to wrap it up. My phone about to die out.
Oh yeah, I saw you doing one time too. Seem like you got to take a nap, but as soon as you get out, you probably gonna wake up some more, right? But we about to get up out of here, y'all. Free all of our political prisoners. Free Dr. Malachi York. We working on Larry Hoover right now, getting them out. Free Rashard Jamal. Free all of our guys. Jeff Ford. Free Jeff Ford. Right? Free all of our guys, man. We've been at war a long time, and it's over right now. It's pretty much over. So all we doing is just making sure everybody aware. Because once we get the 100 monkey effect, once everybody get aware, it's pretty much that'll pretty much put the nail in the coffin. Everybody becoming aware puts the nail in the coffin on all this information. So peace and love, y'all. We out. We're gonna be back. One love. Wadu.
Wadu.